Protect your online privacy today at expressvpn.com/inside.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside Gaming for Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Let's hump for Halo Infinite. Who's gonna hump?
How was that?
That's the kind of hump I like to see. But yeah, Halo Infinite, the launch title for the Xbox Series X. Actually, it's no longer a launch title. We know we've discussed the story here and there, but now we have the why it's no longer a launch title. We'll get into that briefly, though. You're not going to have to wait too long for the juice.
So as you probably already know, Microsoft made the internet cry earlier this month when they announced that the next installment in their marquee franchise would be delayed until next year and would not be launching with the console this holiday season.
It's a major blow for the Xbox Series X, especially considering that one of the biggest knocks on the Xbox One was a lack of exclusives. And it's a big problem that Microsoft has been trying to fix as it's gone on a studio buying spree and getting more new games in the pipeline.
Yeah, they have been trying to work on it. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of those games yet, but we've been
hearing that they're getting into exclusive for like 5 years now.
Well, it takes a long time.
It does, no, for sure, yeah.
But when it came to Halo Infinite, everybody wanted to know what happened, what was the holdup. Well, now we have some answers. Delays in the industry, obviously very common, but it turns out in this case, there are some very unique circumstances, and they don't always have to do with video games.
Yeah, I think the wide assumption here is either COVID, right, has been impacting studios across the world, as well as the bad reception that Halo received. But no, this story comes in from a tech site called Thurrott, which did some investigating into what it called the Halo Infinite's turbulent journey. One of the biggest issues with the game is that a significant portion of its development has been outsourced to third-party contractors. Now, that by itself isn't necessarily newsworthy because lots of AAA studios outsource work. But in the case of Halo Infinite, there has apparently been a lot more outsourcing than normal.
Yay.
Yeah, there's everyone outsources, or a lot of them. A lot of the big boys do. This actually isn't me. I'm not Brian Garr. No, I'm Steve Fleming.
As Thurrott put it, the coordination between the many different companies contributing to Infinite has been rough at best. One person familiar with the company's plans indicated that they believed the outsourcing for Infinite was at a ratio higher than a typical studio undertakes during development, which has caused significant headaches for cross-development collaboration.
Yeah, there's probably like a time difference, if people are on the other side of the planet. I mean, it can be an issue for us, and we're only 2 hours apart.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, as an example, they mentioned the E3 trailer of Halo Infinite that was shown last year. It looked all pretty, but you might remember the July event just last month. They showed off gameplay, and lots of people noticed that the E3 trailer in 2019 looked way better.
Yeah.
It was, that's never happened before, though. A nice, pretty pre-rendered trailer.
No.
Well, Thurrott said that's because the 2019 trailer was outsourced, and despite the game engine footage tag on the trailer, they said that the game was not playable at that level of fidelity. Wait, an E3 trailer look better than the final product?
No.
This has never happened in the history of video games. Stop the presses!
It's also worth wondering if they've delayed the game to work on the graphics, because like we said, the July presentation was criticized for looking a bit last gen instead of a futuristic powerhouse.
Yeah, there was there's already that meme of the boss, that monster face already.
Craig? You mean my boy Craig? Oh yeah, or like remember seeing GoldenEye NPCs or Turok NPCs just all blocking.
It's not that bad, but it's not that far.
It's also, I think it's also just like the expression that the dude is making.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's just overall
wonderfully blank,
corny screenshot. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they got tasked with prettying up the game, kind of like how Crysis, when that came out, and it sort of looked like shit, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go and fix it now. But it also seems like some management shakeups have contributed to the problem as well. Tim Longo, the game's creative director, left 343 Industries back in August of last year. Then he had a replacement, Mary Olson. She also left just a few months later. So there's some moving going on, some heading to the edge.
Yeah, and that was a problem because Olson's whole job was to get the game to its completion date of holiday 2020. So at the time, 343's community game manager John Junisic said that there's no creative dilemma inside the studio.
Sure, there's not.
Yeah, clearly.
But obviously something was going on. If higher-ups are leaving the company a year before their game ships, that's not a great sign.
Yeah, that last year is a pretty big year.
Seriously.
A year before your game ships.
Yeah.
If you're BioWare, that's when you make the whole game. The industry as a whole seems to make games the way I used to study for finals in high school.
You get drunk in your bedroom until 5 a.m. and then don't study.
The team also talked about possibly splitting the game into pieces so that they could make the launch deadline. Xbox boss Phil Spencer has said that they seriously considered splitting up the campaign and multiplayer, but apparently that was later discarded. Thorot also said there's been some friction between the game's engineering and marketing departments. We'll get into those details in a moment, but first, let's chat about DC Fandome, an online convention coming soon.
Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by DC Fandome. DC Fandome is an unprecedented 24-hour, truly immersive, global virtual fan experience on August 22nd. No lines, no badges, totally free to enter. It's the first ever global celebration of the DC multiverse, covering the brand's biggest films, live-action series, animated TV series, games, and comics. It's available in 9 different languages, so whether you speak Portuguese, traditional Chinese, English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, or Spanish, they got you covered. DC Fandome will have over 100 plus hours of programming, celebrating the past, present, and future DC content through panels, behind-the-scenes access, user-generated experiences, big reveals, and exclusives, all within an immersive fan experience. There's going to be over 300 stars, cast members, creators, and crew from all across the different DC properties. And since it is a big global event, there will be hosts from all over the world. Personally, I mean, you know us. We're in the games biz, so I'm most excited for the Suicide Squad game. I'm very pumped about that. We got that little teaser. I hope we get to see a lot more because I'm a big fan of the Arkham series. Obviously, I think most of us probably are. So I'm super hyped for that one. So yeah, DC Fandome is August 22nd. Starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and it is accessible globally at dcfandome.com.
Okay, so back to the issues between Halo Infinite's engineering and marketing teams. I assume engineering's mad because they're the smarter ones who have to do all the work.
Yep.
But engineering apparently has been pushing for delays to the game, but meanwhile, the marketing team has been continuing to hype up the game. Just a few weeks ago, they announced that the multiplayer would be free to play and in glorious 120 frames per second. Kind of weird thing to do if they knew the game was going to be delayed.
Come on, we're just doing our job.
Although it does kind of make sense that the marketing people would be the last ones to know.
Seems like it's a case of the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, and Microsoft had been hyping up Halo Infinite as recently as their big July event, which was on the 23rd. So then less than 3 weeks later, they announced that the game was being delayed. I mean, maybe they didn't know, I guess, but seems like they have.
It seems weird. Because I did the math on that and just looked at it on a calendar. I'm like, that's a quick turnaround there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot of time to do much of anything, and you'd have to be. And I think that's the thing we forget about games oftentimes is that games have to be like largely finished within months of their they usually like a month up to release. They're usually done. So within 2 months of something making that call, that things must have been pretty hectic.
And the holiday seasons, I mean, we're already in the latter half of the year. I mean, the holiday season's not that far off. So yeah, You're right. Like, it would have had to have been, I would think you'd be squashing bugs at this point. I don't know.
Or at least, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like they must have known in July that the game wasn't ready, or maybe they were just hoping for the best. I don't know. There was like, the engineering department's on fire.
Crom, I've never prayed to you before. Please let me finish Halo Infinite.
I hate to drag this out, but I'm just curious. Do you think that it's a situation where it benefits them to have Halo announcements even though they know they're going to cancel it and then delay it after the fact?
Yes.
Because they have their big showcase and they can't not show Halo.
I mean, look at Cyberpunk.
And it's coming. I mean, and also gamers will wait for years for this stuff. So I think the delay, like the anticipation, it's almost, I think for some people kind of just part of the process. You just expect it.
Yeah.
It's not that you enjoy it, but you just, at this point, we just expect it.
And the only reason to get mad about it is if the game comes out and sucks. Otherwise,
that's
it's like, you just had to wait. That's not...
Overall, the story painted a picture of a bunch of different departments that aren't very well coordinated, whether it's a bunch of remote partners or internal divisions. It also probably doesn't help that we're still in a worldwide pandemic with lots of people working remotely. COVID-19 has already delayed a ton of games in 2020, and we're not out of the woods yet.
And it will delay more in 2021 and 2022, probably.
Yeah,
the end is not in sight.
No, especially for game development. I feel like everything that's come out was pretty much already done.
Yeah, I think so too.
And now it's like, now we're starting to get into that time period where it's like, oh, this is really difficult to make a game under these conditions.
Yeah, I think
you just look at the rest of the game calendar for 2020. It's like Cyberpunk. I mean,
and
there's
that
not
keeps getting delayed. Plus, 343 has built a new engine called Slipspace for the game, so obviously that's going to add additional development time too. The game has been in development since 2015, but Halo Infinite would not be the first AAA game to take longer than 5 years to make.
No, 5 years I feel like is probably pretty standard. But there's one more factor that has apparently contributed to the delay: the Halo TV series. That has apparently affected things. Yeah, we heard recently they're well into shooting the first season of the show for Showtime, and Showtime's CEO said it's their most ambitious series ever. So they're putting a lot into this. People have been talking about a Halo show for years. This one's been in discussions for a while now.
But the show has apparently affected development of Halo Infinite. Throughout reported that production of the series has been a significant distraction for 343 management. They wrote that the show's production often gets management's attention instead of focusing on making sure development progress is on the right path to reaching its targeted deadline. Damn you, Hollywood!
You would think the TV show would be like a completely different production, a different universe than game development.
And it's hard to understate what a big deal this delay is. Halo Infinite was going to be the big exclusive for the Xbox Series X. Like, without it, Microsoft may have to rely on a multi-platform game like Cyberpunk 2077 to get people interested. Meanwhile, old friend of the show, Phil Spencer, is trying to put a positive spin on things.
Recently on Gary Whitta's Animal Talking Show, Phil made an appearance and said that the delay is disappointing to people and it's disappointing to us. But he said that the lack of a big exclusive won't change their launch day strategy too much.
I mean, I don't know. It makes sense, I guess. Of course he's going to be they're not going to push back the launch of the Xbox Series X.
Well then they're also not going to say, we're
right. What do you think he's going to say? Yeah. But yeah, he talked about Game Pass, what a great deal it is. He's not wrong, but you got to wonder now, and I would think some people might hold off on getting an Xbox Series X until Halo Infinite comes out, because games are ultimately the things that sell a console. I mean, lots of consoles have had bad launch lineups, like that's pretty standard, but I wonder in 2020 if people are going to shell out, $500, $600 for a console with not much to play on.
You can give me any tiny excuse to buy like a new console. It doesn't have to be that much. It's like, oh, it has a blinking light on it. I'm gonna buy this.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily for Wednesday, where today's story is technically from yesterday, but we're diving into the juicy details today. Woo! We need a hump.
I loved that. Very good. That was great.
Yes.
That's